The smell of burnt sugar and human sweat was the first thing to hit her senses. The second was the laugh. Not the warm, rumbling kind she'd heard in Earth films, but a sharp, brittle sound that cracked against her eardrums like thin ice. Lyra's 3 hearts sank in unison, a sickening triple thud in her chest. Across the sticky diner table, Chad's handsome, genetically perfected face was no longer smiling. He was staring at her hands, specifically at the faint, bioluminescent swirls that had begun to pulse under her skin. A Galran stress response as uncontrollable as a human blush, and infinitely more revealing. "What the hell is that?" he whispered, his voice tight with revulsion. "Are you, like, sick?" Lyra tried to tuck her hands into the sleeves of her thrift store sweater, but the damage was done. The soft, ethereal blue light seeped through the worn fabric. She saw his eyes dart around the retro-themed diner, checking if anyone else had noticed the alien girl glowing in booth 7. It's nothing," she stammered, her vocal modulator struggling to keep the harmonics of panic out of her Earth English. "Just a circulatory thing, allergies." "Right." Chad pushed his half-eaten Pluto burger away, the motion final. "Look, Lyra, you're cute. Weird, but cute. But this," he gestured vaguely at her, encompassing everything from her silver-threaded hair to her too expressive violet eyes. "This is a lot. I'm just looking for something normal." He slid out of the booth, the faux leather squeaking a farewell. A $5 bill fluttered down, beside a napkin stained with her unsuccessful attempt at eating French fries. "For the pie," he said, not meeting her eyes. Lyra sat frozen, the hum of the neon eat sign outside bleeding into the low murmur of the diner. She focused on a single desperate task, suppressing the glow. "Breathe in out like the assimilation training vids. You are calm. You are human." But the light under her skin flickered stubbornly, a silent, screaming testament to her otherness. She was an exchange student from the stars, and she had never felt more alone on a planet. Before we continue, subscribe now so you don't miss more incredible stories like this one. Oh, and tell us in the comments where you are watching this video from. We always read every message. The walk back to her housing pod was a study in sensory overload. Neon Canyon, the sprawling, vertical megacity that had grown from the bones of old Las Vegas, stabbed at the bruised purple twilight with impossible colors. Holographic advertisements for gene therapy and off-world resorts flickered 20 stories high, their light reflecting in the perpetual, oily drizzle that was the city's attempt at rain. Sky taxis whined through designated air lanes while at street level, a chaotic symphony of humanity and not quite humanity flowed through the canyon of chrome and carbon fiber. Lyra kept her head down, her hood up. The Galran assimilation program had been clear. Discretion was survival. Earth had accepted the Galran refugees, yes. The Treaty of Luna was a landmark of interspecies cooperation, but acceptance from governments was not the same as acceptance from people. To most humans, Galrans were the silvers, a curiosity, a political talking point, sometimes a threat. Their homeworld Galra, a planet of crystalline forests and gentle, resonant light, was a fading memory. Its ecosystem collapsed from a stellar cataclysm they still did not understand. Earth was a sanctuary, but a loud, gritty, confusing one. Her pod was in Sector 7, a less glamorous tier of the city known for affordable, cramped housing, and a higher tolerance for non-standard residents. The elevator ride to level 43 was shared with a man muttering to his AI assistant and a maintenance droid leaking hydraulic fluid. The smell of old grease and ozone was a constant. The door to Unit 43-117 hissed open to a single room that smelled of her own loneliness, a faint, clean scent of ozone and moonflower, the only piece of Galra she allowed herself. A small climate humidifier hummed in the corner, keeping the air from feeling like sandpaper on her delicate respiratory system. A view screen displayed a looping vid of a Galraean crystalline forest. The soft chimes of home a heartbreaking backdrop to the city's roar outside. She shrugged off the sweater, letting it fall to the floor. In the dim light, the stress glow had finally faded from her skin, leaving only the subtle opalescent sheen of her natural complexion. She ran a hand over the smooth, hairless skin of her scalp, the silver threads woven into her biological structure catching the light. On Galra, her appearance was unremarkable. Here it was a billboard. Her compad chimed, a message from the program. Weekly integration report due by 2400 hours. Please detail social interactions. cultural acclimatization progress, and any instances of notable xenophobia, level 2 or above. Lyra deleted the notification without opening it. What would she write? Attempted a date. Subject found my biological functions. A lot. Confirmed hypothesis. Human males prefer normal. Glowed uncontrollably. Ate a disappointing fried vegetable stick. She sank onto her sleep pallet, wrapping her arms around her knees. The city endless pulse felt like a physical pressure. She missed the resonant silence of the Galrayan spires, the way emotions were shared through soft light and harmonic tones, not hidden behind facial muscles she still struggled to read. Here every interaction was a potential minefield. A smile too wide, a blink too slow, a misunderstanding of slang, any of it could mark her as off, as other. The next day was her shift at Starlight Retro, a nostalgia-themed cafe that capitalized on the early 21st century. Aesthetic humans found charmingly archaic. Her job was to operate the ancient, temperamental espresso machine, a piece of technology. So primitive it was considered an art form. It was here, amidst the smell of burnt coffee beans and the chatter of customers, that she saw him for the first time. He came in during the lull between morning and afternoon rushes. A man anchored by responsibility. In one arm he carried a toddler, a little girl with a wild mop of brown hair, asleep with her head on his shoulder. In his other hand, he juggled a bulky satchel and a children's picture book about dinosaurs. He looked about 40, with tired eyes that held a quiet warmth, and laugh lines that suggested he used to smile more often. His jacket was slightly frayed at the cuffs. Large coffee, black, he said to Lyra, his voice a low, pleasant rumble. And, do you have any of those little vanilla wafer things? The kind that come in the red pack? Lyra nodded, her modulator automatically smoothing her voice to a neutral, pleasant tone. Of course. 1 large black coffee and Nilla wafers. She turned to the machine, her movements precise. She was hyper-aware of his presence, of the sleeping child. Human families were a source of endless fascination and gentle ache for her. As she handed him the coffee, their fingers brushed. A tiny static spark jumped. It was nothing. A common occurrence in the dry, climate-controlled city. But for Lyra, touch was rare. For a Galrayan, even casual contact could carry faint emotional echoes, imprints of fatigue, contentment, sorrow. From him she felt a wave of profound, bone-deep tiredness underpinned by a fierce, protective love that was as solid as granite. It was so sudden and so strong it made her catch her breath. He noticed. You okay? Yes, she said quickly, pulling her hand back. Static, sorry. He gave her a small, weary smile. Happens all the time, thanks. He paid, carefully maneuvering so as not to jostle the little girl, and found a corner booth. For the next hour, he sipped his coffee, read his book, and gently rocked his daughter whenever she stirred. Lyra found herself stealing glances. He wasn't like Chad or the slick, fast-talking men from the city's ad streams. He moved with a deliberate gentleness. He wiped his daughter's face with a tenderness that made Lyra's heart feel too big for her chest. When the little girl finally woke up, grumpy and disoriented, he didn't get flustered. He just held her close and whispered, something that made her bury her face back in his neck. His name, she learned from his frequent visitor loyalty account, was Elias Thorne. Elias became a Tuesday and Thursday afternoon regular. Lyra started to recognize the rhythm of his weeks. The tired but optimistic Tuesdays, after what she guessed was his shared custody day. The more wistful, quiet Thursdays, the day before his daughter, Maya, went to her mother's for the weekend. Lyra began to subtly adjust his order. She learned he liked his coffee just shy of scalding. She'd have the packet of wafers ready on the counter when he approached. It was a tiny, silent language of care, the only kind she felt safe speaking. One rainy Thursday, the cafe was empty. Maya was fussy, refusing the wafer, on the verge of a tantrum. Elias looked like he was at the end of his rope, his usual calm fraying at the edges. Without thinking, Lyra did something impulsive. From under the counter, she pulled a small, smooth stone she kept for comfort, a piece of Galrayan river quartz that, when held, emitted a soft, subaudible harmonic vibration, soothing to her species. She walked around the counter and knelt near their booth, keeping a respectful distance. For Maya, she said softly, offering the stone. It's calming. It's just a stone. Elias hesitated, but Maya's curiosity overrode her frustration. She reached a chubby hand out and took it. Instantly, her fussing stopped. Her eyes widened, not in alarm but in wonder. She clutched the quartz, bringing it to her ear, a slow smile spreading across her tear-streaked face. "Pretty," Maya breathed. Elias stared first at his suddenly peaceful daughter, then at Lyra. His exhaustion was replaced by pure, undiluted astonishment. "How did you—" "That stone. What is it?" Panic, cold and sharp, shot through Lyra. Stupid, reckless. "Just a lucky stone. From a lake up north. Some kids find them soothing." The lie tasted bitter. Elias's gaze was too perceptive. It lingered on her face, on the subtle silver tracery at her temples usually covered by makeup. But he just nodded slowly, his suspicion giving way to gratitude. "Well, thank you. You're a lifesaver." He paused. "I'm Elias, this is Maya." "Lyra," she said, the name feeling more real on her lips than it had in months. A connection, fragile as a spider's web, was spun in that moment. The following week, Elias stayed later after his coffee, making quiet conversation. He was an exobotanist, he told her, working on adaptive agriculture for the city's vertical farms. He spoke of soil compositions and light spectra with a passion that reminded Lyra of the Galrian crystal singers. He asked about her, and she gave the prepared answers. Exchange student, studying terrestrial ecology, from a remote community in the Nordics. But the lies chafed. When he talked about the struggle of raising a child alone in a city that never slept, she felt a resonance with her own loneliness. When he described the quiet heartbreak of failed relationships, the feeling of not being enough, she saw a mirror of her own rejections. He was an alien in his own way, adrift in a world that valued speed and superficiality. One evening, as she was closing, he appeared at the door, Maya in a stroller asleep again. "I was in the neighborhood," he said, though she knew he lived 2 sectors away. "I wanted to return this." He held out the Galrin quartz, clean and shining. It worked a little too well. She wouldn't let go of it for 3 days. I had to trade her for a stuffed dinosaur. Lyra took the stone, their fingers brushing again. This time the emotional echo was clearer. Gratitude, loneliness, and a spark of something else, curiosity, attraction. It warmed her like a swallowed sun. "Keep it," she heard herself say. For her, really. He looked at the stone, then back at her. "You're not like anyone I've ever met, Lyra," he said quietly. The statement hung in the air, heavy with unasked questions. The mystery deepened from a different angle. At her weekly biometric scan at the assimilation clinic, the droid administering the test paused. "Elevated neuroresonance levels," it stated in a flat tone. "Are you engaging in unauthorized emotional bonding?" "No," Lyra said too quickly. Galrean biosignatures are tuned for deep psionic empathy. Unregulated bonds can cause feedback, instability. It is discouraged. The droid injected her with a mild suppressor. "For your safety and assimilation." That night in her pod, Lyra researched. She hacked into low-level public Galrean archives, using codes she'd overheard from other, older refugees. She found fragmentary texts about resonant pairs, a concept from ancient Galrean lore, a bond of profound understanding that could form across species, a meeting of minds and hearts so aligned it created a unique psionic harmony. It was considered a myth, a fairy tale for children, but the archives warned that such a bond, if initiated but unbalanced or suppressed, could cause psychological and even physiological feedback in the Galran partner, a yearning that could literally ache. She dismissed it as superstition. But the next time she saw Elias, the feeling was stronger, a pull like gravity, when he asked shyly if she'd like to have dinner sometime. "Nothing fancy, just real food. And Maya's with her mom this Saturday." She said yes before her fear could catch up. The date was nothing like the diner disaster. It was at his small, cluttered apartment in a low-tier residential block. He cooked pasta, burning the garlic bread. They talked for hours. He showed her his hydroponic balcony garden, a tiny oasis of green in the steel desert. She told him more of her half-truths, but she let her guard down. She laughed, a real, unmodulated sound that surprised them both. She let her hands gesture freely, and when the faint, happy glow began to shimmer under her skin in the dim apartment light, she didn't try to hide it. Elias saw it. He stopped talking, his eyes fixed on her luminous forearm. Lyra's blood turned to ice. Here it comes, she thought, bracing for the rejection. But he didn't recoil. He leaned closer, his expression one of awe, not disgust. "That's incredible," he whispered. "Is that biological? Tears hot and human pricked at Lyra's eyes. No one had ever called her biology incredible. Yes, she confessed, her voice small. It's a stress response. Or happiness. I can't always control it. A slow, understanding smile spread across his face. So when you glowed just now, that was happiness? She nodded, unable to speak. Well, he said, reaching out. His hand hovering just above her skin, not touching, asking permission. It's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. It was the moment the wall around Lyra's hearts crumbled. She placed her hand in his. The connection was not a spark this time, but a surge. A river of feeling. His loneliness met hers. His gentle strength cradled her fear. His wonder at her light reflected her own wonder at his steadfast humanity. It was not a merger, but a duet. And for the first time since arriving on Earth, Lyra did not feel like a visitor. She felt seen. For 3 months, Lyra lived in a state of quiet, glowing joy. She met Maya properly, who, with a child's unerring instinct, adored her, calling her Shiny Lyra. Elias's apartment became her sanctuary. She learned the rhythms of a human household, the chaos of mealtimes, the quiet of bedtime stories, the simple, profound act of being part of a unit. She told Elias the truth about Galra, about her people, about the program. He listened, held her, and his only question was, why would you ever want to hide something so beautiful? She began to feel, tentatively, that she had found a home. The twist came on a Tuesday. Elias had an important presentation at the Arcology Agricultural Board. Lyra offered to watch Maya at his apartment, a step that filled her with a nervous, proud warmth. They were building a mosaic of trust, piece by piece. Maya was napping when Lyra's personal comm pad, a secure Galrayan device, chimed with an urgent, encrypted priority alert. It was from the local Galrayan elder Viren. Lyra of the Silvered Thread. Your presence is required at the sanctuary immediately. A matter of grave urgency concerning your biosignature and an unsanctioned bond. Do not delay. Fear, cold and slick, coiled in her gut. The sanctuary was a discreet Galrayan community, center hidden in the lower sublevels. She had never been summoned. She called Elias, but it went straight to message. His comm would be off during the presentation. She left a hurried, vague note. Family emergency. Back soon, Maya is asleep. All fine. It felt like another lie. The sanctuary was a shock of home. Soft, resonant light, warm, humid air. The gentle harmonic hum of Galrayan technology. Elder Viren, her skin a map of wise, luminous lines, awaited her in a meditation chamber. Lyra. Viren's voice was like wind through crystals, soothing and severe. Your biometrics have triggered a deep-level alert. The resonance patterns you are emitting, they are not those of casual attachment. They match the archaic signature of a primordial resonance. I don't understand, Lyra whispered, though a part of her did. The human you are bonding with, Elias Thorne. He is not just a man. Viren gestured, and a holodisplay shimmered to life. It showed Elias's public record, then delved deeper, medical scans, genetic profiles, his exobotany work. The data zoomed in on a complex, dormant genetic marker woven into his DNA. His ancestry was part of an early, clandestine gene splicing program a century ago, an attempt to create humans adaptable to alien ecospheres. The program used recovered biomatter from the first Galrayan scout probe that crashed in the 8th century, long before official first contact. Lyra's world tilted. What are you saying? I am saying, Viren intoned, that Elias Thorne carries latent Galrayan genetic material. It is why his daughter responded so profoundly to the resonance stone. It is why you resonate with him. Your bond is not purely emotional or psionic. It is biological, a matching of lost genetic keys. The revelation hit Lyra like a physical blow. The pull she felt wasn't just fate or love. It was DNA calling to DNA. Was anything real? Or was she just a puppet of her own biology, drawn to a compatible host? This is why you summoned me? Lyra asked, numb. No, Viren said, her light dimming with sorrow. We summoned you because the bond has been detected by others. The human authorities who oversee the assimilation program have a faction that views deep, xenobiological integration as a threat. They see your bond not as a miracle, but as a contamination risk, a potential vector for uncontrolled Galrayan genetic expression in the human population. A new hollow image appeared, a docket from the Earth Integration Authority classified. Subject Elias Thorne and Associated Minor. Recommendation. Observation. Potential for quarantine and separation from Galrayan influence. Subject L17 for study. They want to take him? And Maya, study them? Lyra's voice was a strangled thing. They want to understand the bond. To control it. To ensure it does not spread. Friend leaned forward. Lyra, you must break the bond. Sever all contact. For his safety. And the child's. The suppressants will be increased. You will be relocated. No. The word was absolute, a rock in the swirling chaos. I won't abandon them. I love him. The bond you feel may be an illusion, a biological imperative. Viren insisted. And what if it's not? Lyra fired back, her light flaring bright with defiance. What if it's both? Biology and choice? I have made a choice, Elder. He has made a choice. Are we not refugees of a dead world because we believed in the sanctity of life and connection? And now you ask me to betray that? Viren was silent for a long moment. Then you leave us no choice but to protect our people. Your status will be revoked. You will be on your own. And the EIA will come for him. They will use him to get to you and you to get to him. Lyra stood, her body trembling. The warm sanctuary now felt like a gilded cage. Then I will warn him. We will run. To where? Viren's question was a whisper. This planet has no corners dark enough. Lyra left without another word. She ran through the neon-soaked streets, a ghost of light and fear. The beautiful mystery had curdled into a deadly conspiracy. The man she loved was a key to something he never knew existed. And their love had made him a target. The stakes were no longer just her heart, but his freedom, his daughter's future. She had to find him. She had to tell him everything. And then they had to disappear. Elias found her on the viewing platform of the old Stratosphere Tower. A relic overlooking the glittering cancer of Neon Canyon, she was curled up against the safety fence, her glow a frantic, pulsating beacon of distress against the night sky. Lyra? His voice was etched with concern. He'd gotten her message, then the note from Maya saying Shiny Lyra cried and left. Anne had come looking everywhere. She turned. The look on her face, raw fear, profound sorrow, and a love so deep it seemed to hurt her, stopped him in his tracks. Elias, she said, and the story poured out of her. Not the half-truths or the curated versions, but the full terrifying reality. Galra, the refugees, the program, the resonant bond, the genetic markers in his blood, a legacy of a secret human program, the EIA's watch list, the threat of quarantine, of being taken from Maya, of being turned into a lab specimen. She told him everything, her voice breaking, her light flickering with every painful word. He listened. He didn't interrupt. He didn't run. When she finished, utterly spent, he walked to the railing and looked out at the city, his shoulders tense, the silence stretched thin and terrifying. So, he said finally, his voice dangerously calm, this connection I felt, this thing that felt more real, more right than anything in my entire life. It's just a genetic glitch, some cosmic clerical error. I don't know, Lyra wept. Viren says it might be. But Elias, what I feel when I'm with you, when I'm with Maya, the peace, the joy, that's not an illusion. My biology might have found you, but my heart chose you. Every day I chose to come back. I choose you now, even though it puts you in danger. She hugged herself, small against the vastness. I'll understand if you can't, if this is too much. I'll leave. I'll go so far away they'll never link me to you. He turned from the view. His eyes were red-rimmed, but his gaze was steady. He crossed the platform and knelt in front of her, taking her shimmering hands in his warm, calloused ones. Lyra, he said, his voice thick. For years I've felt like I was living in black and white. Just going through the motions, raising Maya as my joy, but the world, it was loud and cold. Then you walked into that cafe, and you were color. You were light. You saw me, a tired, single dad with burnt garlic bread, and you didn't look away. You leaned in. He brought her hands to his lips, kissing her luminous knuckles. You think I care why we found each other? Because of genes or fate or dumb luck? I don't, I only care that we did. Tears streamed freely down Lyra's face, each one catching her inner light like a falling star. They want to study us? Elias continued, a fierce, protective edge entering his voice. They want to take my daughter's father away? To take you away from us? No. He stood, pulling her up with him. We're not running from something, Lyra. We're running to something. A life. Our life. In his apartment, with Maya sleeping soundly in the next room, they made their plan in hushed tones. It was desperate, full of holes. Elias had contacts from his exobotany work. Freighter pilots who shipped organic material off-world to the fledgling Martian and Titan colonies. One owed him a favor. Passage could be arranged, but it was dangerous, illegal, and a one-way trip. The hardest part was what to do about Maya. They couldn't take a toddler on a rogue freighter. Elias's ex-wife, Kira, was a good mother, but she was also a by-the-book corporate lawyer. Telling her the truth was impossible. They crafted a story. Elias had a sudden, unparalleled research opportunity on Titan, a multi-year contract. It was risky, but it would keep Maya safe, earthly, and with her mother. The night before they were to leave, Elias sat on the edge of Maya's bed, telling her a modified version of the story. Lyra watched from the doorway, her heart breaking and swelling at the same time. Daddy has to go on a big trip to help some plants grow in space, Elias whispered, stroking Maya's hair. Can Shiny Lyra come? Maya mumbled, half asleep. Yes, honey. She's coming too. Good, Maya sighed, clutching her Galran quartz. She makes the scary dark nice. Elias's composure cracked. He bent, kissing her forehead, his shoulders shaking with silent sobs. Lyra went to him, wrapping her arms around him from behind, pressing her cheek to his back, sharing his anguish, lending him her strength. This was the cost. This was the brutal arithmetic of love and survival. Later, holding each other in the dark, they were stripped bare. No more secrets, no more masks. I'm scared, Lyra admitted, her voice a tiny vibration against his chest. So am I, he said. But I'm more scared of a world without you in it. Of Maya growing up in a world that would tear apart something this beautiful because it doesn't understand it. He looked down at her. You are not a problem to be solved, Lyra. You are a gift. And I'm keeping you in that vulnerable raw space. Their bond deepened beyond biology, beyond circumstance. It became a covenant. They were two souls, one from the stars, one from the soil of Earth, choosing each other against the weight of two worlds. The emotional stakes were absolute. They were sacrificing a known life, a piece of their hearts in the form of a sleeping child, for the fragile hope of a future where they could simply be. The freighter docking bay was in the underbelly of the city, a place of shadows, rust, and the tang of industrial coolant. The ship, the Ceres Runner, was a beat-up grain hauler modified for special cargo. Captain Roja, a woman with a cybernetic eye and a no-questions policy, nodded curtly at Elias's passcode. Strap in. We depart in 10. No signals from here on out. She vanished into the cockpit. Their final moments on Earth were spent in the grimy hold, surrounded by crates of synthetic soy protein. Elias held Lyra tightly. Next time we stand somewhere, it'll be under a new sky, he murmured. It was then that the bay doors didn't close. Instead, the harsh white light of EIA security floodlights flooded the hold, blinding them. Elias Thorne, Lyra of Galra, you are in violation of assimilation protocol. 7 Alpha. Exit the vessel with your hands visible. Panic, cold and absolute. They were surrounded. 6 EIA agents in tactical gear advanced. Weapons drawn, not blasters, but neural dampeners designed for non-lethal psionic suppression. Captain Roja's voice crackled over the ship's comm. Sorry, Thorne. Credits only go so far. They offered a full pardon for my past. Indiscretions. Betrayal. The air left Lyra's lungs. On your knees! The lead agent barked. Elias moved in front of Lyra, a human shield. Take me, let her go. She's done nothing. The bond is the violation, the agent stated coldly. Both subjects are required for study. The alien is a vector of uncontrolled genetic exchange. Lyra saw it then. The future Vryn warned of. Glass cells. Tests. Maya growing up without a father, never knowing why. Elias, a specimen. Her light, a tool for dissection. A fury ancient and primal rose in her. It was not the fear of an refugee, but the wrath of a Galraean whose home had already been stolen once. Elias, she whispered, her voice changing, gaining harmonics, a resonance that made the metal deck plates hum. Think of Maya, think of our home. The one we haven't built yet. Hold that image. Hold it as tight as you can. He understood. He closed his eyes, gripping her hand. He didn't think of the ship or the guns. He thought of a small dome on Titan, with a garden under artificial sun. Maya, older, laughing. Lyra, her glow soft and constant, not hidden. A home. He poured every ounce of his hope, his love, his fierce, protective will into that thought. Lyra opened herself. She dropped every emotional barrier, every suppressor the clinic had ever given her. She became a conduit. The resonant bond wasn't just a link. It was an amplifier. Elias's powerful, focused human emotion, a father's love, a man's devotion, a profound, defiant hope surged into her, and she channeled it. Her body erupted in light, not the gentle glow of happiness, but a brilliant, star-white radiance that filled the hold. It was psionic energy, made tangible, fueled by the synergy of their bond. The wave of light hit the EIA agents like a physical force. Their neural dampeners overloaded and sparked. They cried out not in pain, but in overwhelming sensory overload, a flood of feeling not their own. Love, hope, sacrifice, longing. It was empathy as a weapon. They staggered, disoriented, collapsing to their knees temporarily, incapacitated by the sheer, beautiful weight of the connection they had come to destroy. The effort was immense. Lyra felt a sharp, draining ache in her core, as if the light was burning her from the inside out. She swayed, the brilliance fading to a flicker. Lyra! Elias caught her as her knees buckled. The ship's systems affected by the pulse came back online with a groan. The bay doors, their controls scrambled, began to shutter closed. Go! Lyra gasped, barely conscious. Now. Elias didn't hesitate. He half-carried, half-dragged her up the gangway and into the Ceres runner, slamming the airlock seal just as the massive doors clanged shut. Through a viewport, he saw the EIA agents struggling to their feet, powerless as the docking clamps disengaged. The engines fired with a deafening roar. The ship lurched, then shot forward into the launch tunnel. Pressure built, crushing them into their seats. Lyra was limp beside him, her light guttering like a dying candle. They burst free of Neon Canyon into the cold, silent black of space. Earth, a gorgeous blue-brown marble, hung in the viewport, growing smaller. Elias cradled Lyra's head. Stay with me, he begged, tears cutting tracks through the grime on his face. We made it. We're free. Stay with me. Her violet eyes fluttered open. They were dim, but they found his. A whisper of a smile touched her lips. Her hand, faintly luminous, rose to touch his cheek. I saw it, she breathed. Our home. And in the quiet hum of the fleeing ship, holding the woman of light who had sacrificed everything, Elias Thorne looked out at the infinite stars. Not with fear, but with purpose. They were no longer running away. They were sailing toward a new dawn, 1 standard year later. The sun lamps over the hydroponic garden hummed a gentle B-flat, a tone Lyra had programmed because it reminded her of Galrayan wind chimes. In the center of the small dome-shaped habitat on Titan's Shangri-La plain, green things grew in defiant profusion, earth tomatoes, Martian lichen blossoms, and a fragile, crystalline sprout from the last seeds of Lyra's homeworld. Maya's laugh echoed through the comm system, a weekly video call from Earth. She was a little taller, her hair in braids. Daddy, the plant from the shiny seed is bigger. It is, Bug, Elias said, his face soft with love and lingering ache. Lyra says it might flower next month. Tell her I drew a picture of it. And of you both under the big ring. Lyra leaned into the frame, her glow steady and warm, a soft silver blue. She had recovered. Though the profound act of channeling, the bond had left its mark. Her light was now a permanent, gentle emanation, no longer something she could hide. She wore it like a cloak. We will hang it right here, Maya. I miss you. I miss you too, shiny Lyra. Mom says I can maybe visit when I'm 10. That's only 5 more birthdays. After the call ended, the familiar silence settled, bittersweet. Elias put an arm around Lyra, pulling her close as they looked out the main viewport. Saturn's rings cut a majestic arc across the charcoal sky. They were safe. Captain Roja's betrayal had been a blessing in disguise. The EIA assumed they'd died in a freighter accident listed in a subsequent report, a cover-up for their own embarrassment. The Titan colony, desperate for skilled botanists and xenobiologists, asked no questions. Their life was small, hard, and beautiful. They had built it together. The bond between them was quieter now. A deep humming constant, a shared wavelength of thought and feeling. It was both biology and choice forever intertwined. They had paid a terrible price for it. A father's distance from his child. A refugee's eternal exile from any world she could call home. But they had each other. They had this dome, this garden, this shared breath under an alien sky. Lyra rested her head on his shoulder. "Do you ever regret it?" she asked softly, the eternal question. He kissed her luminous temple. "Every day I regret not being with Maya, but every day I choose you. And every day that choice makes a future possible. For us, maybe one day for her too. In a universe that's learned to be wider and kinder." He was right. Their story was not an ending, but a seeding. In the garden, the Galrayan crystal sprout pulsed with a soft, internal light, a hybrid of two worlds, growing strong in the alien soil. It was a promise. And as they stood there, a new signal chirped on the long-range scanner. Not from Earth, but from the dark, silent expanse beyond the solar system. A signal on a frequency the colony couldn't identify. But that made the Galrayan crystal flower in their garden resonate with a sympathetic, joyful chime. A harmonic, a call. Lyra's head lifted, her violet eyes wide, not with fear, but with a dawning, incredible wonder. She looked at Elias, then out at the stars, where a new mystery, vast and ancient, was just beginning to whisper their name. Their journey was far from over.